If you live in Canada and you want to invest your money and you want your money to grow really fast and be wealthy, I'm going to show you the best ETF for you to reach your goals in today's video. If you look at this chart, guys, since it came out, it just keep going up. There isn't any slowing down. The return is a 202. This is a massive growth. You don't see this type of growth with the ETF. So if we look at the top holding, the first one here is Amazon at 10%. They have Nvidia at 7%, Alphabet, which is Google, at about 5%, another Alphabet. So Google together, they have about 10%. And if you look at Taiwanese Semiconductor, right now is about 4.60. It used to be the biggest position when I checked last time, I think maybe 6 months ago. But because Taiwanese Semiconductor has grown a lot, so I think they trim a little bit because this is more of active passive fund. So now you can see they put Amazon here. And the reason they put Amazon is because Amazon right now, out of all these mega caps, is the stock that has lower value. And that's why they put Amazon at 10%. And Micron Technology, they have Western Digital Corp. And also they have Appleton Corporation. They have Canadian Natural Resources. So this ETF doesn't only have the biggest tech companies, but also it does have some Canadian energy companies. For example, this stock right here. And also they have gold stocks. This ETF, it does only include just tech, but also it has some Canadian company. There was one time actually they even had a Dollarama. So very impressive. So you might be wondering, what type of ETF is this one? I'm going to show you in this next slide what type of ETF and what it has to offer and why you should consider investing in this ETF. This is official website from Fidelity, and this ETF is called Fidelity Global Innovators ETF. The ticker symbol is FIN. If you want to be specific, you can put FIN.TO, and that shows you that is a ticker symbol for Toronto Stock Exchange. But if you put FIN.TO, that also is the same ETF, but this is in the US currency, but also it trades on Toronto Stock Exchange. So why this ETF is very good, and this is ETF, it's the only ETF that can actually make you very rich. And if we look here, guys, check this. Net asset as of now, it has a 2.51 billion. It's a huge fund. It's managed by Fidelity. For people who don't know, Fidelity is actually an American company, but they do have a Canadian branch. So when you invest your money, you're not investing with American institution. It's American institution overall, but they do have a Canadian section of Fidelity. So if you look at unit outstanding, they have over 80 million. Management fee is a little bit higher. And you see why this doesn't matter that much, because you're paying MEA management expense ratio. That is combine all the expenses, including your management fees and all the taxes. You're paying 1.09%. So 1%, but your return, check this, annualized return of this fund is a 45.44. That's massive. So even if you're paying 1, even 2%, you are getting about 45% annualized return. So let's say, for example, this fund doesn't do all, right? You're getting, let's say, even if you get 20%, you still way ahead of any other investments you can ever invest, right? So this is big. Now, if we look at the distribution, they pay annually. This is not an income fund. This is a growth fund. So they're going to pay very little distributions. I own this fund, by the way, and the distribution I get was very little. But one of the distribution, whenever they pay in December, they usually pay distributions, including some capital gain, because some funds have to return some capital gain whenever they make during that year. So you're going to get a little bit of a good chunk. And benchmark is the NASDAQ Composite Index, because this is the NASDAQ, which is a tech heavy. But again, I've shown you it does have a lot of Canadian companies. So 80% of this fund is more of a NASDAQ, and 20%, which they combine with a little gold and some Canadian energy companies and some staples like Dollarama. So that's a pretty nice blend. But again, majority of this fund is the NASDAQ, which is a growth. And that's why there's this huge growth here. If we look at Morningstar category of this fund is global equity. So it's not only US equity, but it's global, because it does have the NASDAQ, and also it does have some Canadian companies and some Japanese companies and some Asian companies, but a very little portion. But majority of this fund is all on the NASDAQ. A breakdown of this fund, if you look allocation, asset mix, it has a good blend of mix. So they have 84.5 is foreign equities. And then they have 14.8 Canadian equities, and they have 0.06, that's other investments. As you can see here, a country mixture, they have 62.4 United States, 15.3 that's Canada, and they have 7.5 Taiwan, which is Taiwan is semiconductor, because that stock has done really well, and that's what propelled this fund to have this type of growth. And 4.6, that's South Korea. And if you look at the sector mix, they have information technology at 47.9, and communication services is 15.3, consumer discretionary 18.9, materials 6.4, healthcare 3.3, energy is 3.9, and then they have industrial 4.5, they have financial 8.4, consumer staples 6%, and real estate is very little, less than 1%. And utility, of course, there's nothing in utility. The top 10 holdings, as I've shown you earlier, and this is as of March 31st, 2026. They have Amazon, Taiwan Semiconductor, Nvidia, Alphabet, which is a Google, and Micron Technology, Western Digital, Apple Corporation, Canadian Natural Resources, Roblox Corporation. Roblox is pretty good. But Roblox, guys, a lot of kids love this, and it has been doing great. So a total number of holdings, they have 119 stocks in this one fund. Pretty good diversification. But 50% of this ETF is composed of those 10 stocks. That's why you can see this huge growth. For someone who wants to invest their money and have their money grow big, this is the best fund because it's very concentrated with the growth rather than income. And the top portfolio manager for this fund is Mark Schmel. He seemed to have a good reputation because if you look at all the fund that this guy manages, they are all pretty good. They have a greater return. So that tells me something. Now let me show you return of this fund. So if we look at here, standard period returns, since inception, this ETF has returned 41.65%. And if we look at NAV is 42.57. So as you can see, here is 52.57 and here is 41.65. The difference there is that fee you are paying. So even if you're paying 1% in fee, you still you still 40% return since inception. So this fund was incepted in 2022. So it's been out for less than 5 years. But this is an ETF that was changed from mutual fund. The mutual fund from this ETF existed for many years, more than 10 years. If you look at the return of that mutual fund, it has returned around 31% per year. So the longer period you extend, this fund at the minimum has returned about 24%. That's pretty impressive. Now, if we look at the calendar year return, in 2024, this fund was returned 58.65%. Closer to 59, and in 2025 it returned 20.61, so round up to 21%, and in 2026 year to date has returned 23.16. So on aggregate, since he came out, he has returned 41.65. That's very impressive. I don't think you're going to get that type of return from any other fund. And if you want to know a little bit more about this fund, Fidelity Global Innovators ETF is an exchange-traded fund launched and managed by Fidelity Investment Canada. The fund is co-managed by Fidelity Management and Research Company LLC. It invests in public equity markets of a global region. The fund invests directly and through other funds in stocks of companies operating across diversified sectors, invests in growth and value stock of companies across diversified market capitalization. The fund seeks to benchmark the performance of its portfolio against the NASDAQ 100 Composite Index. Fidelity Global Innovators ETF was formed on May 19, 2023 and is domiciled in Canada. Asset class is equity, ticker symbol is FIN. Index that it tracks is the NASDAQ. Even though it has some Canadians, you've seen that 16% of this ETF is Canada. So it doesn't only invest in the NASDAQ, but it just mimic the NASDAQ. Category is total market, provider Fidelity, stock exchange, Cboe, Canada. So this is a Canadian fund and it's very good for Canadians. Fin had a total return of 67.38 in the past year, including dividend. Since the fund inception, the average annual return has been 44.94. Very impressive. And you can see the performance 1 month year to date, 34.9%. 1 year has returned 67.38. And max since inception is 44.95. So guys, that's all. I just want to make this video to give you a quick update on Fidelity Global Innovators ETF and to show you that this is the best ETF for growth investors. But if you want to invest and receive distributions as an income investor, then check my other video I made to show you the best income fund in Canada, which does not have NAV erosion. So guys, on this channel, I'm always going to keep you update on one of the best funds to invest your money. So if you don't want to miss any of this, make sure you subscribe. And if you like this content, as always, please give me a like. And don't forget to share with someone you think this video might help. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next video. Bye-bye.